Alright guys, I hope you all had the chance to see The Force Awakens. I saw it twice now, and it was even better the second time around. But this is spoiler talk. I have a spoiler-free review. I put a link in the description below. If you have not seen the movie yet, check out my spoiler-free review, because this one is movie-breaking, spoiler-heavy. You have been warned. Now, what I really loved about the movie is that this Star Wars movie probably has the most intriguing opening crawls of all the Star Wars movies ever. Seriously, the first sentence is, Luke Skywalker has vanished. I was like, whoa! It also tells us that the Galactic Empire, yeah, they have been defeated. We saw it in Return of the Jedi, but the First Order has risen from the ashes. From the get-go, you're like, okay, so Luke Skywalker is pretty much the driving force behind the plot. That's awesome. He might not be in the movie as much, but that's great. The first new character that we meet is actually Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. He is given the map that leads to Luke Skywalker, and boom, the First Order attacks. And this is our first glimpse at Kylo Ren, and I loved him in the movie. The cool thing about Kylo Ren is that he is not really what he seems. You meet him the first time, you're like, okay, he's badass, he's a master of the dark side, and he's scary as shit and intimidating. But you meet him later on, and your perspective changes a little, but I get to that. There's this sweet-ass shot where Poe Dameron just tries to kill him, because yeah, this is what cool pilots do. They shoot first. Kylo Ren just uses the Force to block the blast in mid-air. This blast will stay in the air. And I'm taking Poe Dameron hostage. Poe Dameron hides the plans that lead to Luke in BB-8 on a sand planet, who runs into an inhabitant of a sand planet. And yes, that is very familiar at New Hope. As well as the fact that the Empire or First Order actually has something like a Death Star again, only it's bigger, it's better, and it's called Star Killer Base. But I didn't mind it because, like I said in my spoiler-free review, this movie really focused on its characters, their development, and their relationship with one another. You meet John Boyega during the raid scene of that village for the very first time, and he has a stormtrooper helmet on. But from the get-go, you can tell he is different because he doesn't want to shoot them. The way he walks, he's uneasy about the entire situation that the stormtroopers are about to assassinate and massacre civilians. And right there, you knew where John Boyega's character was coming from. It's like, that is awesome. Poe Dameron talks shit to Kylo Ren while he's intimidating him, and John Boyega busts him out, and this is how he encounters Rey, my favorite character in the entire movie. And I love the fact that this movie never stopped. And there's this great scene where Finn and Rey and BB-8, they're running from the First Order, and they're trying to sprint towards her ship. And he's like, well, why aren't we taking this one? She's like, yeah, that's a piece of crap. And then her actual ship gets blown up. She's like, yeah, the piece of crap will do it. And the camera pans over. It's actually the Millennium Falcon. The entire audience, me including, cheered. That was awesome. And that was also the first hint that the trailers and all the promotional material were pretty much misleading, because she pilots that thing and she's awesome. Her reflexes are like super developed, and even Finn is like, oh, where'd you learn to do that? And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because if you saw the trailers, if you saw the promotional materials, even the poster of the movie, you clearly see John Boyega holding a lightsaber, but he is not the Force-sensitive one in the film, and I love that they tricked us. It's actually Rey. But then they meet Han Solo and Chewie, and their introduction was awesome, because it also mirrors the first Star Wars. They fly through what pretty much is a tractor beam, and you're like, okay, the First Order captures them, just like the Empire captured Luke and the Millennium Falcon in the very first Star Wars. And you're like, no, it's actually Han and Chewie. That's awesome. And they bigger back and forth. And the great thing is, Han Solo is a developed character in this film. He isn't just there for fan service. He is essential to the plot. Why? Well, because his son is Kylo Ren. And I love that revelation so much. Even though I did see it coming, I knew that Kylo Ren, who's obsessed with Vader, who even has the Vader helmet, I was like, that's cool, but this is pretty much the reason why Luke vanished. Because Luke tried to restore the Jedi Order, and he wanted to teach Leia's and Han's son, but he got seduced and turned to the dark side, which is why Luke was so ashamed and he's gone. But it was very, very cool to see Han back interacting with the new generation. That was badass. And which brings me back to Kylo Ren. Once you see him without the mask, you see Adam Driver, you see a normal boy, and he is tearing up. Every time you see him without the mask, it looks like he just cried. And he has some real anger management issues. Every time someone fails him, it's not like Vader that he just executes them. He just smashes his room into pieces. And I'm like, that's great. That is how Anakin Skywalker should have been portrayed in the prequels. Because that guy is actually twisted by the dark side. He is confused. And every time the light side calls out to him, he hurts himself in order to go one step further to the dark side. And I love that so much. Anyways, once Han leads them to Maz Kanata, I believe it's her name. This is where Rey discovers Anakin Skywalker's and Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. And I love the way they portray the Force in this movie. No stupid midichlorians, no, she just touches it and she has visions. Visions of her past, her parents leaving her behind. And I'm like, who are you? Are you also a Skywalker? Are you Luke's daughter? Because still, by the end of the movie, we don't know. We do not know her last name, which I find fascinating. But she has images of Luke touching R2-D2, of Kylo Ren massacring the Jedi Order of Luke, and that's just awesome. And this is pretty much her starting to get aware of her powers. So once she's captured by Kylo Ren, there are two really cool scenes. First of all, she manages to overpower him mentally when he's trying to read her mind, and that is really fucking cool. The second thing is when she does a Jedi mind trick to the Stormtrooper. Not only was it a funny scene, but it was like, okay, I'm gonna try myself out here. I'm trying to see how far I can go with the Force, and that was just really solid. But this leads to the scene that was just breaking my heart. Han tries to get his son back, who's actually called Ben. And it seems like he won him over, but I'm like, no, Han is a goner. Han is going to die. And he does. His son even says, you need to help me. Help me. And then he kills him, because that was the help he essentially needed. He needed to kill someone he loved in order to get rid of the call from the light side. And Chewbacca just loses his shit, kills everyone, and even really fucking wounds that asshole. And it's a heartbreaking scene, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Han Solo is gone, my favorite character from the originals. He's gone now. And this leads to the confrontation between Finn, Rey, and Kylo Ren. I love that lightsaber fight so much. Essentially, Kylo Ren just used the Force to throw Rey against a tree and she's knocked unconscious. So Finn, again, sports the lightsaber, but he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and he's just, he gets his ass kicked. And this is a scene that I loved more than I can say, because one of the greatest scenes ever in the entire Star Wars saga is Luke hanging upside down in the Wampa cave and getting his lightsaber back, using the Force for the very first time. And they mirrored that scene, but again, reinvented the themes of the Force, because Kylo Ren is like, yeah, I want that lightsaber, and he's using the Force, the lightsaber, again, stuck in the snow. And it starts to creep out, but you see that it's not landing in his hand. It actually passes him and lands in Rey's hand because she used the Force. And I was like, oh! And what I love most about the scene, not only the fact that the Force Jedi theme is played throughout the scene beautifully, no, but I love the fact that every time Rey does something Force sensitive, she's actually a little bit afraid of herself. She's like, she just activates it and the fight ensues. And I love that fight so much. And that's the thing. Some people told me, well, how is it possible that this little girl kicks his ass? Well, first of all, she is a good fighter. We have seen her previously in the movie sporting her staff. So yeah, if you can handle a staff, you can also handle a lightsaber. And second of all, I do believe that Kylo Ren never actually fought someone with a lightsaber before. And he is still in the very middle of his training, which leads me, by the way, to his master, the Supreme Leader Snoke, who also a lot of people seem to hate. They call him generic, and they thought that he was actually as huge as Godzilla. No, this was only a hologram. And I can't even qualify that. I can't call the guy generic because we don't know anything I can tell you is that he's mysterious, he's intriguing, and the fact that his face is all scarred up and that he looks ancient, he might be as old as, I don't know, and that got me thinking. Again, this is just a theory, but I've seen a lot of people supporting this theory. Is this dude maybe Darth Plagueis, you know, from the fable of Palpatine in episode 3 in this one uniquely great scene in the prequels? It could be, and that would make sense. It would also really make sense why he's obsessively pursuing Luke Skywalker and wants him dead. So yeah, the movie pretty much ends with R2-D2 awakening. He and BB-8 create the map that leads to Luke. And again, that is something that I just realized. Because when Kylo Ren was reading her mind, he was like, oh yeah, I can see it. The island with the ocean. And I was like, is this where you grew up? Because like I said, we haven't seen your parents yet. And they find Luke on an island surrounded by the ocean. And the way Luke looks is so badass. He has only one scene in the movie, no lines of dialogue. But you're just like, oh my god. He looks ashamed. He looks like a sad person. And the way Rey offers his lightsaber to him, he's like, it seems like he's uncertain whether or not he should take it again. And this is the end of the movie. And again, some people didn't like that because it was a cliffhanger. And I'm like, wait a second. The Star Wars movie that is considered the greatest Star Wars movie of all time is Empire Strikes Back. And that one has a huge fucking cliffhanger. Must I remind you that Han Solo got frozen in carbonite? Luke got his hand chopped off. Darth Vader is apparently his father. And no one ends on a high note. So I was in love. It set up the new characters perfectly. It revisited the old ones tremendously great because the relationship between Leia and Han, the fact that they lost their son to the dark side, that was great stuff. But also the new characters. Finn, who is essentially a bit of a coward. Poe Dameron, who is a real hero without being a cocky asshole. And Rey, who is just plain awesome. I love that movie so much. It's better the second time around. And I can't wait to see where they go with the next one. With or without spoilers, I have 2 videos now urging you to check this film out. Judging by the fact that you just listened to me talk spoiler heavy about The Force Awakens, I assume that you have seen it already. So The Force Awakens, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then just subscribe.